We begin tonight with Niall Stanage, White House columnist for our partners at The Hill. Shaniqua McClendon, Vice President of Political Strategy at Crooked Media. Welcome, both of you. Thank you very much. Niall, you wrote the piece. Is this a fear? Is this a panic? How would you describe it?
I would say it's an anxiety, because I think Democrats, broadly speaking, are pretty happy with how things are going. Certainly they have a fighting chance now with Kamala Harris as the nominee, which they did not think they had with President Biden. But it isn't just that polls have been wrong in the past. It's that they have consistently underestimated Donald Trump's actual level of support. And the fear of that pattern repeating is what causes a lot of Democratic anxiety.
All right, Shaniqua, you'll be with a bunch of Democrats this weekend. What are you guys going to all do to deal with your anxiety?
Well, there are some black Republicans, but we'll be able to hear from the vice president and the president this weekend. But I've already been at some of the events that are happening around the Congressional Black Caucus conference this week, and people are just really, they are nervous, but they're really excited. But the thing I keep hearing is, we have to do stuff. We have to knock doors. We have to make calls. We can't just rely on enthusiasm and expect it to take us to a victory, and that is because we've seen the polls tell us one thing, and these polls are always really close, so we can't really make a true determination, but they always tell us one thing. And then we see in 2016, Hillary Clinton lost, even though she was ahead. And then in 2020, the polls were really, Biden was up more than he won by, and so none of them are taking it for granted.
Part of the issue, right, is that as much as Democrats, I think, want Kamala Harris to be Barack Obama and want this to be 2008, I see you smiling, there's a realization, right, that it's not.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, she just became the nominee. Barack Obama had an entire primary and then general election to show America who he is. She's had, what, like maybe 2 months now to do that. And so people are still getting to know who she is. And, she didn't come out of nowhere. Barack Obama...
Well, she was the vice president of the United States for the past 3.5 years.
Right, and so people do know who she is.
So that brings up an interesting paradigm, right? Because typically if you have a great product, you put it out everywhere, right? But that's not what's being done. She's sort of being kept behind glass in the basement, whatever you want to call it. This is her answer when asked for specifics about bringing down prices. Take a listen.
When we talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people, what are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager. I grew up in a community of hardworking people, construction workers and nurses and teachers. And I try to explain to some people who may not have had the same experience, but a lot of people will relate to this. I grew up in a neighborhood of folks who were very proud of their lawn,
Is there a chance that this very short runway is actually a good thing for her?
I think by and large it will be, but I completely get what you're saying. It takes time to really master your message around policy, especially in a way that voters can understand. People who work in D.C. and work on policy, they can see all of this intricate, detailed language, and it makes sense to them. But when you need to communicate that to voters, it takes time to kind of take it out of the way you process things in D.C. and make it plain for voters. But she still has time to do that. And maybe if Donald Trump agrees to another debate, she'll get to do that
53,
more on
okay.
stage.
Well, that, or she could do it with interviews. I know there's a lot of people who'd be more than happy to. Niall, how much of the anxiety is about Donald Trump outperforming, and how much of the anxiety is that the initial excitement around Kamala Harris may not have been fully justified?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of Democrats found Kamala Harris underwhelming back in 2020 during her primary campaign.
She didn't get to Iowa, so
yeah,
that's
she was
pretty underwhelming.
And she was a really, talked-up candidate at the beginning of that. Having said that, she has performed well, I think, in most people's estimation, certainly of a Democratic leaning. And so the question is, does that continue? She has to obviously win over that small sliver of voters in the middle who just aren't sure. They probably don't like Donald Trump, many of them. They may be centrist themselves. They might even be modestly conservative in some ways in their overall mindset. Can she be an acceptable alternative? And that's, I think, a key question for her campaign.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.